Greetings, nerds. This is SNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, Sarah. Welcome back. It's good to be recording with you again this week.
We are back, and we are here to pretty much just talk Winter Soldier and Falcon. Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah. There's a lot to talk about.
I don't know why I confused their names.
It's okay. Everybody knows what it is, especially after if folks didn't know about this series before, they definitely know about it after this past week's episode. But
it's really funny to me because I was talking to my brother, I think last week, and he said, "Yeah, have you been watching this Falcon and Winter Soldier? I keep hearing it's really good, but after WandaVision, I don't know." And I'm like, "No, everyone thinks that." And then you watch it. And the freaking quality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It is WandaVision was like a Marvel TV show, but Falcon and Winter Soldier is a movie. If you just compare, put it all together, that is just being streamed on a weekly basis. It's so much on par with any of the Captain America movies.
Yeah. I mean, it obviously it is, as folks know, it's really a continuation of the story from Civil War and Endgame to some degree, obviously, given it 6 months after the blip. But yeah, I'm really, even from the gate, I have enjoyed this particular entry into the MCU, and even each week even more so. If they continue with this track record of with WandaVision and now Falcon and Winter Soldier, that bar just keeps getting higher. I mean, and of course we had the Loki trailer that dropped while we were out. What were your thoughts on it?
I literally just watched it about 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And my thoughts are, watch this trailer, watch the first trailer, same tone, same consistency of quality of visuals. Mm-hmm. You get a little bit more insight about, it's confirmed. He is basically being tasked as the Loki variant.
Yep.
to fix what the mess he caused in Endgame.
Yeah.
And I like it. The chemistry between it's been a while since I've talked.
That's okay. Yeah, we'll get our pod muscles back. It's like muscle memory. We'll be there. We'll be there.
But I'm blanking on his name. What is Loki?
Oh, as far Tom Hiddleston?
Yes. Yeah. So Tom Middleton? It's
Hiddleston.
Tom Hiddleston.
Hiddleston, yeah.
Okay. So the chemistry between Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson is just chef's fuck. I give up. Why did he freaking ask me first? I like it. Moving on.
Yeah, moving on. I liked it too. It's like, I mean, it was definitely gotten better since as far as what the story is about. I mean, we did in the first one, but in the first trailer, but this week's the second trailer definitely has fleshed it out even more. And yeah, I mean, you're right with the visuals and everything about the quality of the production. It's definitely going to be the pissed off Loki that we saw, early on in the MCU, and not the reformed Loki that we got towards the end with Infinity War. So.
Yeah, he just cannot do anything to erase the Zemo cut. So, no, that's not something we want to fix. I also always think it's funny when MC Marvel does something like this and then claim we're not in competition with DC.
Of course not. We did something in 6 days. It took you guys 2 years.
Yeah, we're not in competition. Snyder cut, Zemo cut, tomato.
Yeah, not at all. That Zemo cut is pretty funny, though. I mean, I did go to YouTube and watch it. I mean, it's just especially the 60 minutes of a 30-second loop.
Yeah, the Marvel has a tendency to, when something works, they'll continue.
Yeah.
I mean, all of the whole announcement of the Spider-Man movie title, I mean, that played into it. It's weird. It's like we always talk about the legacy of the MCU, that narrative that stretches across over 20 movies and now TV shows, and how that was possible. But there's also this other narrative of just the Marvel studio and the actors and everything. I don't know. It's brilliant. But adding to that ensemble, She-Hulk has announced that it has cast Hamilton's Renee Goldsberry, Eliza, as I like to call her. And that's all Will told me. Not the part, nothing else. She's just been casted.
That's the important thing. Now, actually, there's really not much I know other than the character that she's going to be portraying is a character named Amelia, and it's a friend of our lead, Jennifer, who is she of course played by Tatiana Maslany, and well, of course Mark Ruffalo is going to be in it, and of course Tim Roth is back as the Abomination. So I mean, it's again they're continuing to build on this in this universe, and of course attracting high caliber, high quality talent to fill these roles. I mean, I guess we talked about this some time ago on another podcast, how the MCU is the place where a lot of A-listers, you wanna go play in that play box.
Yep. I mean, Marvel always gets their casting pretty right. I mean, they've had one or two slip-ups, but at the end of the day, this is good. And I can't talk today still. Moving on, Lucy Liu gets cast as the villainess, not a word, named Calypso, and is sister to Helen Mirren's character. Yep. In Shazam sequel.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yes.
I hate when Will add things to the one.
Yeah, so she is Calypso and is Helen Mirren's sister's character in Hespera in the Shazam sequel, and of course that's coming, and that was announced today, and of course Shazam itself is scheduled to come out in June of 2023. So again, I think the DCEU is also bringing its A game, and I know you weren't a big fan of the original Shazam, but I really did like it. So we'll see. It's looking to be a very good sequel to the original, at least in my opinion. But we shall see.
A bit of offense taken. I never like things as much as you like them, but that doesn't mean I'm not a fan. It's a solid movie. I mean, it's nothing MCU. Okay, MCU doesn't have like they have their bad ones too, but still, I mean, like it's Shazam. It did what it did, and it's been forgotten. But all right, let's go back to Falcon and Winter Soldier, because we are playing catch up. In one ways, the break was really nice. We haven't had a break in a while, and it's important just for exhaustion levels.
Yep.
But at the same time, I'm a bit pissed off about our break.
we timed our spring break the wrong time. Yeah.
Well, the right. I don't know, because the third episode was really solid.
Yeah.
And I only say solid because if you asked me when it first dropped, I would have been like, that was a great episode, round of applause. But it came, and then I saw the fourth episode, and in comparison, yep, third episode solid. Fourth episode, holy fuck.
Yep.
Totally. The freaking endings of these shows are so, this is how you do a cliffhanger in TV.
Mm-hmm.
Will, I know where the Flash is back, and they always do their like, and then they show you a teaser for the next episode. Take some freaking notes. Those teasers, they're pale in comparison to these setups. I mean, in the third episode, I want to take a little bit of credit for this, Will, because I called it in the very first episode, Wakanda.
You did. You sure did. You did.
Not really realizing how freaking far they would go with this, to the point where we get the Dermalage in the fourth episode. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, to your point about the character setups, I mean, obviously at the end of the second episode, we got the tease of setup of Zemo, and then and then we get the payoff into with the third episode with Zemo's return, and you know, and of course Bucky. I love the whole setup with how they had Sam, how they had Bucky orchestrate the jailbreak for Zemo, and just how Bucky was like, so what if I told you that it was wonderful how they just set that up, and Sam's reaction was just like, the look on Sam's face. I mean, Anthony Mackie he was just killing it with like, you got to be effing kidding me.
Right, and I love that so much how they did that, because it was fast.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't only tell you a story, they showed it simultaneously.
Yeah.
So it wasn't one long hypothetical, here's my plan, but they showed you. And then what could have been a whole hour episode on its own was about 5 minutes of one episode. Yeah. Because we knew he would get out, and they're just like, yeah, we're not going to show that. We're going to kind of show it, but in a montage, and we're going to have Bucky explain it in a hypothetical, and really make it clear Sam is not on board with this. Nope. This is all Bucky.
Yep.
Again, because and I like how, as much as this is a buddy cop show, and you have these two characters who were both very close to Steve Rogers, who are kind of friends but kind of enemies. They both still have, they're not one person. Like, neither are the sidekick. They're their own characters. They're on their own paths, and their paths are just crossing at these points. And I really like how they're making sure it's clear, like, all of the stuff with Wakanda and all of the stuff with Zemo is very much Bucky focus. Yeah. And then Sam, alternatively, it's all about Carly, and it's all about the Shield and the legacy of Captain America. And I really like how they're doing that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was talking to someone about it, the show, and I was like, yeah, there's like about 4 or 5 different arcs that they are effortlessly telling this story about these characters, and even though, as you beautifully set up, how Bucky and Sam have their own stories, because of the happenstance of Steve's disappearance, and then we get this John Walker coming in to the mix to basically be the nexus of Sam questioning the larger point of what is all this for, and what is and am I, who is a worthy successor to carry this shield, and is it my place to carry this shield, given all the things that we have seen in this series, as far as really exploring so many issues of race and class and power and privilege, and then Bucky's side, as we saw when they were in the interrogation room, and he even comes out and says it, in these episodes, if you don't take this shield up, I'm willing to go in there and steal it and take it myself.
Right.
And because he doesn't feel that Walker's worthy of it, and he feels that Sam is, and he can't, Bucky still can't see why Sam can't see that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, Bucky knew Steve before everything, and saw the good in Steve, and and knew that character, and I think he sees that same. I think he sees in Sam what he saw in Steve as a kid.
Yeah.
And why they were best friends, and he always looked after him, and then the role reversal and all of that, and he saw the change in Steve. But before we get into John Walker, I wanna focus a little bit more on Sam.
Yeah.
Because to your point, everything that they're doing with race and class in regards to Sam, they're making it work like really well because of the connection, especially in this fourth episode, he was able to build with Carly.
Mm-hmm.
And that recognition that made Carly go from just a super soldier who, well, we don't really know what she's all about, to suddenly not a Thanos level villain,
no,
but a MCU villain who actually we understand their motivation.
Yeah.
Which makes her like infinitely better than, you know, a lot of the Thor villains we've received, a lot of other villains we've received, because and in a way she's very similar to Thanos. She's like, our world, yes, half of the population was wiped. Mm-hmm. However, because of that, we actually were able to move forward more together, and there were resources finally, and it wasn't about this class system, and he recognizes that, and he recognizes that this isn't a terrorist who just wants to kill people. This is someone who has a mission, who has a goal. Mm-hmm. And their conversations throughout the fourth episode, I just was like, this is so good, because they're not fighting. It's more about sparring of wit.
Yeah.
And I think those kind of conversations that are pretty much verbal sparring matches are so good.
Oh, it really was. And especially when you look at how this Sam's journey after, you know, post blip it has been, and how, you know, and also thinking about Carly and even in the Flag Smashers, because and how she views the Shield versus her friend who who worshipped Captain America, for example. Mm-hmm. And you know, because he, you know, whenever I think about their conversation that they had, where he was like, "Oh, you know, I worship, you know, I love Captain America. That shield means something." We know, of course, it was fighting bad guys. It was a very, you know, he was looking at the Flag Smashers and the world in a very black and white kind of good, evil, good, bad construct. Carly has that same view as well, but also there's some, what I really like about her as a villain, and it's also what we're seeing with Zemo too, and I know we'll touch on him more later, is there's a lot of gray to her.
Yeah.
And to your point about the sparring that she and Sam had, the verbal sparring about what all this means, and I'm really glad that they utilized the reason why Steve and Sam were first introduced anyway, with Sam working with soldiers with PTSD, because that's a very important footnote to, especially when we see what's going on with Walker, as we are introduced to him and some of the things he and Battlestar talked about, what they dealt with in Afghanistan. I think it was very, I think it was very important I'm glad they brought that element of Sam's work back, because yes, Sam is a soldier of fortune now, doing these missions for the government as Falcon, but he's still a counselor.
Right.
And he was using that counseling role to really try to get and to understand what was going on with Carly. And, but for John busting in on their session, Sam may have actually been able to tap into her humanity, because she was feeling conflicted about, people getting lost, even though that at sometimes when they destroyed the facility in episode 3, but at the same time, she was also feeling herself as superior too, because she now has a super soldier serum. So I just really enjoyed that psychological warfare that was going on there, and it's too bad that circumstance, story caused it to get cut off, because I really, really would have liked to see how much further that would have gone but for John cutting in.
Right. I mean, to go back to your point about Sam being a counselor, that's part of the reason why him and Steve became very close, because in a way, Steve didn't realize at the time how much PTSD he was dealing with.
Yeah, that's true.
And in a way, Sam had let it all go. He had gotten over it, been able to help others, and then through what happens in Winter Soldier, he is brought back into the fight, only in this other capacity as a contractor, as an Avenger, as just a hero.
Yeah.
So, which is different from being a soldier, and then that leads us to John Walker. And I'm kind of mad at you, Will.
Okay.
Because I have this trust and I have this faith that you tell me things. You did not tell me that Wyatt Russell, who plays John Walker, is Kurt Russell's son.
Oh, I thought I did. My bad. I thought you. Well, I guess I just assumed you knew that. So
I did not.
Okay.
Because when I found that out today, I was immediately mind blown, because the whole thing we talked about the last time we talked about the show, living in someone else's shadow.
Mm-hmm.
And to know that he is the son of a huge movie star.
Yep.
It's just like, okay.
Two huge movie stars. Don't forget who his mom is.
Yeah. Freaking Marvel casting. That is just stars align perfect. And every time I think of John Walker now, I will forever think about the final freaking shot in the 4th episode, because that is iconic.
Mm-hmm.
That image, just whoever directed that episode, give them a freaking Emmy, because to have us looking up and to have this lanky body that doesn't look like a super soldier. No, right. It looks like this stretched out, like limp. And then you have the bloody shield. And it's just the crafting of that single frame was just so haunting. I love it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't get over that shot. And before we were talking about the opening of the 3rd episode and how they were able to get Zemo out by setting up that montage. And most times in television, that would be a whole episode. Yeah. Same thing happens in the 4th episode, where there's clear setup for him taking the serum, and yet they don't show us. No. And that was a brilliant choice.
That was, yeah.
Like, we don't need to see that. We know it's coming. We understand it, like the wheels, and what was his name? His best friend?
Oh, Lamar.
Lamar. Yeah. Okay, Lamar. I'm really sorry you died. However, you said one of the stupidest lines about what that serum will do to him. I mean, I even forget what the line was, but that whole conversation was really bizarre to me, because I'm in my mind, I'm like, everyone knows that power corrupts.
Yep. Yeah.
So what the heck are you talking about? No, power will just bring out the best in you. I'm like, what school did you go?
What school did you go to? Didn't you learn from Erskine as far as what Steve? I mean, y'all supposedly like study Captain America. I mean, it just makes you more of what you are.
Right. It's just, it wasn't, and I couldn't get over that scene. And so when he died, I was like, karma.
But is he dead? But is he dead?
Will, let's not play that game, because don't do that to this show. If they do a Flash, let's lower the stakes.
Yeah. Well,
because that was great motivation.
It is. I was thinking more, and I was actually thinking more Civil War, actually, with Rhodey.
Yeah. You know, my mind went there.
Yeah.
And then I saw
and also
Field. Yeah. Like they better not take it back.
I hope they don't. I really hope they don't. I mean, I know there's a lot of folks that were more like, again, you know, well, because with the parallels again, you have the African American sidekick character, well, with Tony and Rhodey. In this case, it was John and Lamar. Question, you know, there's the of course the overtones of like, oh yeah, here we go again, sacrifice the black trauma to help bring out the good, you know, white character savior. You know, and at least, you know, in Tony's case, it was, you know, he got even more hell bent on why he doubled down on the Sokovian Accords, and in Walker's case, he doubled down on who he is. And
well, he did get his ass kicked by the Dermage.
There was that. I mean, he was, well, there were, yeah, I mean, there was that piece too. I mean, I mean, that was very telling too. I mean, he's like, there weren't even super soldiers and you know,
that scene, can I just give a shout out to my man, Sebastian Stan? During the fight, I know some people didn't like this part, but when he kind of encourages John, is like, you almost got that one, John.
Yeah.
Doing good.
You're good. Doing good, John. Yeah. The other thing that I liked about those scenes too is just in the you know, Sam was like, the only thing you're running here is your mouth.
Yeah. It's like, okay, we know them, and so we're just gonna stand here while you get taught a lesson that we've already got taught.
Yep.
Except then they do get a little bit involved, and Bucky, ooh, he gets taught another freaking weapon. The scene when Ayo takes off his arm.
Yeah, I know that's caused a lot of consternation on social media for sure.
Why?
Well, I guess there's a question of like, well, there's several things like, why did Wakandans built into failsafe? I mean, in the betrayal, was it a betrayal of their trust of Bucky?
I think it was a reminder that I think, well, fail-safe is a hard thing because let's be honest, it's still a metal arm.
Mm-hmm.
So there probably has to be a way to attach, detach, whatever.
Yep.
It's like, it's not his real arm just casted in metal. But I think it was kind of a remember what we gave you. Like at the beginning of the episode, she says to him, we helped you get over Hydra's brainwashing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you turn back around and release the man who killed our king.
Yep.
And now we're having to deal with this Captain America person, and you're still not handing over Zemo, and you seem to have forgotten that we gave you a better arm.
Yeah.
And a new arm. And so again, this is set up for a full-on White Wolf storyline because some things went down in Wakanda, and I still want to know how long was he there?
2 years.
How long were him and Ayo doing it?
Yeah, you know they did. I mean,
they did it.
That was some total.
Will, it's Sebastian freaking
Yeah.
Stan.
Oh, it was Ayo. I mean, I mean, in the opening sequence with her with the deep programming, I mean, there was so many levels. One hats off to Sebastian Stan and the actress who plays Ayo. I can't, yeah, I mean, the range of things that they showed in those opening sequences. I mean, I'm shipping them all the way, and I usually stay out of shipping games, but this one I'm shipping.
Yes, and you know what? I like it, Will. I like it. Good call. Good call. Sharon, Sam, check too.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, but Bucky was in Wakanda 2 years in and out of cryo freeze, but because he went there at the end of Civil War, and then we saw the at the end of Black Panther, he emerges as a White Wolf, and then of course we had the blip, Infinity War. So
yeah, so we have all of this going on, and again, we talked about this a lot during the first season of Batwoman. The ability to have all of these running narratives and then craft a scene where you have Dermalage intervene, come after Zemo. John Walker's there. John Walker also wants to put Zemo back in prison. Then they get caught in odds. And then because of that fight, that moves John Walker into having better motivation that he can't do this job just by being human. He has to be more than human. Mm-hmm. And that leads us to the final. Like, all of that, like, that's what's building a narrative is all about. Yeah. And it's just, I mean, Will, I'm sorry. It's really hard to watch the CW show.
It is. Oh.
Right now. It really
It is. It is. I mean, I will say, I watched Batwoman last night, and I'm looking forward to the Painkiller backdoor pilot with Black Lightning that airs tonight. But I finally got around to Supergirl and the Flash. I finally got around to Supergirl from last Tuesday, last night, after watching Batwoman. And, thank goodness for John Cryer, because otherwise, it's really hard these days to watch them with what's going on with the MCU, because the level. I mean, to the Flash's credit, it has gotten better. I mean, it's only upswing, but the way they're really building a narrative and stuff, and the way they are telling this story, and we hadn't even really gotten into Sharon in episode 3 in my report yet at all. Which I do hope we do talk about that too, because there's a lot going on there that really set things up for the fourth and episodes moving forward. But yeah, getting just to put a bow on Bucky and Io and the fight in Zemo's loft. The last thing I also want to say about that is just the look on Bucky's face and the look on her face when she took the alarm off. His just like, oh, I really messed up, but also, to the point that people were saying betrayal, with them taking the arm off or humiliating him or whatever it is. I think they still, at the end of the day, they may have been disappointed in Bucky, but if they really were angry to the point because he failed to bring Zemo in after the 8 hours, they would have taken the arm. So they would. So I think at the end of the day, he's going to have to do some mending of fences with the Wakandans, but I think he'll be able to get back in their good graces. Right.
And I mean, so Zemo, they're doing a good job. We know he's a creep. We know he's not on the up and up, and he clearly has made it he clearly wants to get out from under Sam and Bucky.
Yeah.
Which he does finally is able to do with everything that happens at the end of the 4th episode.
He pulls an El Chapo.
He does. But I like the small moment through this very chaotic and this very dramatic episode where we almost remember he's only working with them because he doesn't want the super soldier serum to get out there in the world as much as they don't. Like that's common cause.
Yeah.
And so you see that when he realizes all the vials that Carly has, and he smashes them. Of course, he misses one. Okay.
Yeah.
One moment I was like, "How stupid," but but I like that moment nonetheless because it's a reminder of his motivations and why, like, very similar to Carly. He gets that this stuff is not good. This stuff had one good product, and that was just because there was a Steve Rogers in the world.
Yeah.
Giving it to others doesn't mean that they're going to become Captain America or these giant Avenger type figures. It will just lead to more death and more destruction, as we see with John Walker.
Yeah.
So I like that. I like his moves on the dance floor.
Yeah.
And that also leads us kind of to Sharon.
Yeah.
Very, very similarly, like they're playing a lot with grayness in in these episodes where you have these characters we think we understand, and then we're given with Carly where we're given ability to sympathize with her. With Zemo, a reminder of why he is so against the Avengers, and then Sharon, the mysterious spy. That's all I got.
Yeah. So a couple things with Zemo first, and then we'll talk about Sharon. So again, some time back, whenever we were talking about the MCU, maybe talking as we were getting ready for this show, I was mentioning how I thought Zemo and it was one of my favorite villains of the MCU, and this episode and these last 2 episodes really shows why I was in that feeling. He's always been 10 steps in front of the Avengers. I mean, he knows what pressure points to hit because, I mean, after all, I mean, he was responsible for the for the events in Civil War and basically setting a lot of things in motion where the Avengers fell apart, where Cap became Nomad and gave up the shield and so many other things. And so he, when episode 3, when he had his chance, he's like, okay, when we're gonna go to Maryport to find the Powerbroker, so we can get to the bottom of the super soldier serum, and then we learn how they hired Dr. Nagel, which I like the way they again brought in elements from the comics but adapted it to the MCU, because Nagel was actually the person in the comic who created who created Isaiah Bradley when he was able to reconstitute the Erskine's formula. But Zemo really having a discussion about supremacists and of course he had to say touche with Steve being the exception to the rule. And of course, even like in the 4th episode, using the Turkish delights to get the kids to be able to continue to sort of throw Sam and Bucky off the path, while he was, again, setting things up to basically create this collision course between Carly, Sam, Bucky, and John Walker. And being able to get those 20 vials that he was, and he was successful in doing so by, utilizing the information he got from the kids about Kari's foster mother's funeral. And he was able to save one vial able to, again, destroy the ability of the super serum to be able to be used again. So, I mean, Zemo is just a fascinating villain and character that a lot like Killmonger was too, where those are the ones that stand out when you think about the MCU as far as villains, because of this, again, not because of fisticuffs, but because of the mental aspect, which I know we talked about earlier with Sam and Carly, and that's what I think makes them such compelling villains to me.
Right. So what about Sharon?
So Sharon, I think from what I've gathered, this is the Carter that we see now in Falcon the Winter Soldier is a lot closer to the character in the comics. And Sam's got a lot of markers that he's going to have to pay with Sharon, because, I mean, how many favors has she done for them now? Going back to Civil War. But also, of course, there's always there's not to the level that we had with WandaVision, with all the theories and theory spiraling and stuff. But of course, folks are wondering who the Powerbroker is. And of course, many folks feel that that is indeed Sharon. I don't know if it's Sharon, but I think she possibly is working with the Powerbroker. And I think the Powerbroker might be General Ross.
Oh, good call. Good call.
Just given Kari, given the way the world is at this point, who would benefit the most from having, one, destroying all the super serum, but two, continuing to harness and control power, and which was at the, and the reason why I say get rid of the super serum is because he was the driving force with the Sokovia Accords. So, so I think Ross is a very strong candidate for the Powerbroker, assuming they don't bring in one of the two potential Powerbrokers that hasn't been introduced in any MCU film to date, or TV show. But the ones in the comics were had similar aims, and there was a character named Curtis Jackson, and then the other Powerbroker was Powerbroker, and Powerbroker Inc. That had similar aims to Bill, who were also responsible for the super serum, and responsible for U.S. agent John Walker getting the serum in the comics as well. So that's another possibility. But right now I'm betting on General Ross being the Powerbroker. And I think given and Sharon been able to get her name cleared is probably one of the motivations for why she has access to all the things. Just like Bucky had his, deal that he worked out with the government to get his name cleared. I mean, I think this is a way Sharon can get back into good graces.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see. A lot going on.
Yeah.
2 big episodes. But that is it for us tonight. Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me at Will and Polk, WILLMPOLK. Please
follow me. You can find me on Twitter at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow us too on Twitter at CNN Nerd. Friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, but most importantly, rate, subscribe, comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.